Hello everyone, today we are talking about the Unearthed Arcana, which is about to drop. We are having a little bit of an overview video of what you can expect. There are a lot of very, very cool things in here. So what are some of the things that we are getting in this UA is, it's a big one.
It's not only a big one, it is the biggest one.
Right.
This is the biggest Unearthed Arcana we have ever done. And
It's almost a book.
or at least a large chunk of a book.
Right.
So this Unearthed Arcana is 50 pages long, and it has 5 classes. It has new spells. It has new feats. It has a revised rules glossary, and I saved it for last, what I consider to be sort of the star attraction of this Unearthed Arcana is the new weapon mastery system.
And that weapon system is a bit of a game changer, especially if you are a martial class.
So this weapon mastery system is our way of addressing the feedback we've received for many, many years, and that is, can we give characters who are focused on weapon use more to do tactically in battle? Also, as a part of that, how can we differentiate weapons from each other more so that when you go to choose a weapon, you really feel like that choice is meaningful? And so we were looking to address both of those desires. And we have been playtesting this system internally for a while now and having a ball with it. And we decided, okay, it's finally ready for us to share this with the broader D&D community to see what people think. What this system does is it allows members of certain classes, and in this Unearthed Arcana, people will see it's the fighter and the barbarian, and then in future Unearthed Arcanas, you'll see the monk and others also delving into weapon mastery. But right now, the fighter and the barbarian are the first ones out of the gate who get to play with this new system. What weapon mastery does, it's a feature that fighters and barbarians now get. It unlocks a new property that is in each weapon. So every weapon in the 2014 Player's Handbook now has an additional special property. It's called a mastery property, and the only way to access that property on the weapon is if you have a class feature or a feat, because also in this Unearthed Arcana we give you a feat that unlocks weapon mastery. You need some way to unlock that feature. It represents a character's, as it's in the name, mastery of the weapon. They're able to do a little something extra with it. So then that, of course, begs the question, what are these things?
Yeah.
So these properties are things like topple, which allow the weapon to knock a person prone. Cleave, which allows you to swipe from one target into another target. Graze, which allows you to do a little bit of damage even if the attack roll missed. And some of these work only for melee weapons, like Graze only works on melee weapons, but then others are also available for ranged weapons. We have Slow, which when the target is hit, their speed is reduced. A number of our ranged weapons now have this, which gives you some really interesting tactical options as you look to control the battlefield. There's Flex, which is a mastery property that allows a person using a versatile weapon to deal the versatile damage even when you're wielding the weapon one-handed.
Right.
This will be especially powerful for characters who like a sort of classic sword and board combo, because suddenly you're able to have your shield and deal the weapon's higher damage without giving up your shield. These options, what we have found in our playtesting, give you fascinating round-by-round tactical options if you're playing a character who gets to play around with these new weapon capabilities. Now, the fighter then gets to go even further. So the fighter, in addition to having access to these new weapon mastery properties, is able to also at higher level change the property
Right.
on particular weapons. And then at even higher level, the fighter can put two of these properties on a particular weapon and then decide which one activates when the fighter attacks. So this is all a part of us really leaning into the fighter's identity as the master of all weapons. Fighters have always, in 5th edition, had access to every weapon in the player's handbook, and we wanted to make sure that when they interact with the weapon mastery system, they are the best at it. Now that said, the barbarian is still going to have a ball with this system, but just doesn't have the same customization options that the fighter has.
Right.
The barbarian has rage and other goodies instead, but the fighter is going to be able to customize their experience at higher level to create a tactical mix that the class has never had before. I personally have been playing a fighter in our internal playtests and probably have had the most fun I've ever had playing a fighter in D&D.
So with the warriors having these new things that they can do with weapons, this is also like very cinematic. I know it's like there's a lot of fun to be had like mechanically, but this is also extremely cinematic combat.
Absolutely. There are options also like push. Some weapons have the push property where when you hit, then you can hurl the person back. So you're going to be able to create these cinematic action scenes like never before. And that we have found in our internal playtests transforms how the fighter and the barbarian feel round to round, giving them an excitement, a tactical texture, also a pursuit of different weapons that is very meaningful, because now you might pursue having a particular weapon because of the mastery property that it has, because you might decide, oh, I want a push weapon in my mix. I want a topple weapon in my mix. I want a vex weapon in my mix. Vex is another property that is available here. And so it's going to give your your weapon shopping, your decisions round by round, all of that, a whole new dimension if you are playing a character who's all about the weapons that you use. Now, with the feat that we have in this Unearthed Arcana, we've also made it so that non-warriors can dip their toe into the weapon mastery pool.
Perfect.
With that feat. In a way, you can think of the weapon master feat in this playtest as the weapon mastery equivalent of the magical initiate feat that we have in the player's handbook for people to get a little bit of spell casting.
Especially if you are, say, Pact of the Blade warlock, you might want to be a little bit better with your blade.
So before we dive into the warlock,
Right.
A couple other things about weapons. People are also going to see in this Unearthed Arcana that we have retuned a few weapons in addition to the application of the mastery system to these weapons. So for example, you're going to see that tridents have had their damage adjusted so that they are now actually different from spears. The lance has been adjusted. War pick has been adjusted. The short sword has now returned to being a martial weapon because given all the changes we've made, we've found it's no longer necessary for the short sword to be a simple weapon, so it's gone back to being a martial weapon. There's more. In the Unearthed Arcana, you're going to find that we now have design notes that summarize the most important updates, not only for weapons, but for everything that's in the Unearthed Arcana. So you're going to find a list of what are the main updates to weapons, what are the main updates to each of the 5 classes, and then even within those classes, what are the main updates to the subclass that's provided with the class, and so on and so forth.
That's a great thing for like the overview of all of this is, I was looking at this UA and you see all these design notes and you are literally guiding people as to how this is 5th edition, how this is like compatible with the 2014 Player's Handbook and the new Player's Handbook.
Well, and these notes provide kind of a map for you to see, okay, what's different from the 2014 Player's Handbook, and then whatever ends up getting adopted from the playtest and making it into the 2024 Player's Handbook will then go through, in our development process, a compatibility check, because we will then, as we finalize, ensure that the new material works with your 5th edition books that you already have. Now, people might be wondering, how can you change a class dramatically and it still work with the books that are already in print? Here's how. We have designed all of the adventures for 5th edition so that the adventures actually are not aware of how a class functions on the inside. Right. Class in 5th edition is a piece of content. It's not a piece of the system. And so as long as we have maintained the system and continue to maintain it in the 2024 rulebooks, you will be able to use new content options with the books you already have. We will delve more into that the closer we get to the release of those books. The reason why it's not a focus in our conversations right now is, first we need to see in the playtest process which new options are delighting people and are actually going to make it into the new rule books. Mm-hmm. And then we will make sure, all right, in how the final implementation is realized, we will then ensure that compatibility is protected. And then once we're there, I'm sure you and I will have an entire video or several videos about here's how these puzzle pieces are going to snap together for you. Right. But in the meantime, these design notes are a great way to sort of have a little map of the territory and see, okay, here are the main things that are different between this playtest version and the 2014 version of the same game element.
Yeah, I very much like the inclusion of those design notes. Those are fantastic.
They are helpful even for us in our design process. And we had basically this sort of equivalent of this kind of notation internally. And with this UA, particularly given how big it is, we realized, okay, we need to provide some of this mapping in the Unearthed Arcana itself, and we will continue to do so in the future UAs that are in this series.